everybody. It is June 16th, 2022. I'm Joan McDonald, the chair of the New York State Bridge Authority. I will call the roll and we will then immediately go into an audit committee and finance committee meeting. First up, Maria Bruni.
Here.
Alex Berardi.
Here.
Lanny Gilbert.
Here.
Colin Jarvis. Michael O'Brien.
Here.
And I am also present. We have a quorum, and we will go right into the what's first, the finance committee or the audit committee. Yep. Okay. Audit. I'll turn it over to Alex, who is the chair of the finance committee. Audit committee.
Good morning. We're going to begin today by I'd like to propose adopting the minutes of the March 17th, 2022 committee of the whole meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Maria. Second. Lonnie, thank you for a second. I'll roll call. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Lonnie. Aye. And I am also an aye. The minutes are accepted as presented and passed. Next up will be the engagement letter, audit plan, internal control systems auditor award. For that, we turn it over to Brian Bruchek, our CFO.
Thank you. The first item up, the engagement letter and audit plan as required to comply with the Internal Control Act. The authority awarded back in May of 2021 a contract to Tronconi Cigar and Associates for basically to provide an assistance with the authority's requirement to maintain a program of internal control review. The cost for the engagement as originally proposed in award was $20,000 for the first 3 years, so it's still $20,000. The engagement letter basically outlines the specific details and scope of the engagement. In addition to that, for this particular item, we also have the audit plan for this particular year. The Internal Control Systems Auditor will be reviewing financial reporting, contract coordination, supervision, administration of IT security program, and toll collection revenues. Toll collection revenues is considered the only high risk element in terms of risk to material misstatement on the financial statements. Okay, this item is being brought to the board. It's technically the engagement letter is a formal contract form, even though the contract itself was awarded by the board previously.
Do any of the audit committee members have any questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the engagement letter for the internal control systems auditor? Motion.
And audit plan.
And the audit plan.
Motion.
Second.
Second. I'll take the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Ian Gilbert.
Aye.
And Alex Berardi. I'm also an aye. That motion is adopted and accepted. Next up is the engagement letter for the independent accountant services to extend the contract by 1 year, or excuse me, to approve the next year.
So again, it's the same concept. The authority did award in June of 2021 a contract for the 3 years with 2 one-year extensions, but annually there is the detailed engagement letter which defines roles and responsibilities and scope of the audit work. This is also similar to the Internal Control Systems Auditor. It requires approval by the audit committee and will be approved and reviewed by the board subsequent to this approval. This is a little different because this is really solely focused on the financial statements as opposed to the Internal Control Systems review. So there is no audit plan.
And the price looks fantastic considering inflation. Yes. Did any of the audit committee members have any questions? Can I have a motion? Motion. Second.
Second.
Okay. Roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Ian Gilbert. Aye. And Alex Berardi. I am also an aye. This has been adopted. Is there any other business for the audit committee? Hearing none, we will turn it over to the finance committee.
Okay. You have to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn? Yeah, adjourn. So we will adjourn the audit committee, and I turn it back to Joan.
And I will turn it over to Michael O'Brien, the chair of the finance.
Rather than do the roll, I think we should just note that Commissioners McDonald and Rooney are present. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the minutes of the March 17th meeting. I have a motion.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Next up is the quarterly operations report. Turn it over to Brian for a quick synopsis.
Okay, thank you. Previously, we have gone and provided the board traffic and revenue for the periods year-to-date March. This particular item is really just a periodic update for the quarter to show how the authority is trending against overall budget and in comparison to prior year. The main item that's new here is the operating expenses. Operating expenses increased 4.2 million as a result of one element. The largest element would be a change in accounting treatment associated with the EasyPass customer service center costs. As the authority transitioned to all electronic tolling, there was a reduction in salaries and some other staff tolling related costs. So the authority made the decision to stop recognizing the service center costs solely on a cash basis until we hit year end. So now we're doing estimates month to month to better reflect, the fact that the cost structure is different. Okay. So as we continue to go and use this approach, the comparison year to year will be more meaningful. Other items to note, as I indicated, salaries were down $528,000 associated with the staffing reductions with the transition to all electronic tolling. Intergovernmental was down $378,000. This is really a timing difference. As I've stated in previous meetings, the authority recognizes expenditures mostly through the year on a cash basis and trues it up to accrual basis in December. And lastly, depreciation was up $176,000, primarily associated with the purchase and beginning of depreciation of the toll system that was put in to support all electronic tolling. Okay. Overall, the authority's operating expenses are budgeted for $43.6 million for the year, which includes $4.2 million for accrual of post-employment benefits, which is GASB 75, and $1.6 million for depreciation, primarily associated with the walkway over Hudson, which is booked at year end. So far, $7.9 million was spent in the first quarter. In addition, the authority's 5-year capital program projected $66.6 million. $8.8 million has been spent so far as of March 31. This information will be provided to the board as well, but it's solely for information purposes, and no action is required by the board.
Any comments or questions from finance members? Okay, with that, do I have a motion to accept the operations report for the first quarter?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any other business?
No.
And I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Back to our chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The two committee meetings have concluded their business, and we will now go right into the regularly scheduled board meeting. Our first item on the agenda is public comments. Chris, is anybody registered to provide public comments today?
Nobody has signed up today.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anybody else that is dialed in remotely that would like to make public comments? Hearing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is we have two community appreciation recognition awards. One was what they call an added starter with some work that was done yesterday with some quick thinking on Tuesday, June 15th at approximately 8:45 a.m. The town of Newburgh police responded to the Newburgh Beacon Bridge for the report of a man contemplating jumping off the bridge. And in the press release from the town of Newburgh Police Department, the town of Newburgh Police Department gave thanks to the quick coordinated efforts of the town of Newburgh Police, New York State Police, New York State Bridge Authority. Out of fear that the victim suffered serious transported by the town of Newburgh Volunteer Ambulance to the hospital. So we would like to thank the quick coordinated efforts of the New York State Bridge Authority, and it doesn't appear the victim suffered any serious injury. And Minoshka, thank you for very quickly bringing this to our attention. I'm going to sign it right here and pass it over to you on behalf of the board members for you and the team. It's Danielle, I think it was operations that really were at the forefront of making sure. So if you can convey to you and your team our deepest appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have Sheena, that is the manager of Command Center,
okay.
and Rachel Abel, that is the manager of the security technician. So
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, this is the second one.
Yes,
Go, sorry.
The second one
Is
this is for
oh, one was
Command
for
Center.
okay, one okay.
So we did one for Command Center. You guys, Danielle, thank you for directing
Got it.
this
Thank you.
effort. It's amazing. Work
Thank
you
you.
done.
Great. All right. Our next item on the agenda is to adopt the annual and regular board meeting minutes of May 19th, 2022. Do the board members have any questions or comments on those board meeting minutes? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the annual and regular board meeting minutes of May 19th, 2022?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alex. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I will also vote in the affirmative. Joan McDonald. The meeting minutes are approved and adopted. We next go on to our monthly reports from our director, Minoshka.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, all commissioners. This month, in terms of COVID, we stopped our COVID testing, weekly COVID testing per state directive on June 7th. Until further notice. In terms of internal affairs, we continue our training for mental health and suicide prevention awareness, which is very useful, as you could see today, in what happened yesterday for us. In terms of security tours, we continue to refine our security procedures and the work that our SDVs do. This will include, this month we instituted parking placards to NYSBA employees to display in their vehicles. So we're able to know who of the people that are parked here, since this is public parking, throughout the whole agency, which cars belong to NYSBA, and those that don't, then the STBs have to know at all times who's sitting in our facilities. For security purposes, we will have today a presentation, hopefully at the end of the meeting, to highlight the role of the STBs in our agency. In terms of grants, this month we have been working on 5 grant applications for the FEMA board security grant program grants for cybersecurity initiatives. Last year, for the last few years, we've submitted 1. This is the first time that we're going for 5, so we're very excited about it. In terms of public traffic delays, NYSBA will be rolling out advising the public of traffic delay times at MHB this month using Transcom travel time data in our variable messaging signs, social media, and 501 messages. Newburgh Beacon currently is included in Transcom. And so now we are rolling into MHP. We hope to roll in the other bridges as we go on. Transcom is a coalition of 16 transportation and public safety agencies created to provide a coordinated approach to regional transportation management and to provide news of incidents and accidents that are happening throughout the road. We have been a member for a while. One of the issues that we discovered is that people need to opt in to be able to receive the text messages. So we're going to be launching a campaign, an advertising campaign through social media, website, VMS, to get more people to sign up so they're able to receive all the messages that we constantly put out in the Transcom operating system. In terms of community, we have been scheduling meetings with our elected officials, they will be starting later in the month and the whole month of July and September, some of them. In terms of school visits, we again open our doors to the public. We had our first presentation at the Bear Mountain Bridge. Jeff Wright, our chief engineer, and I provided presentations. In my case, I spoke about my engineering career. Jeff spoke specifically about our bridges and engineering understandings of how to build these bridges and how to maintain them. We also collaborated with a professor from West Point that was talking about sensors and research collaborations that we hold with West Point for the kids. It was very successful, super nice. I recommend everyone to come. I also met with the principal Hudson River Skywalk partners in Olana. I met with the directors of the Olana Historical Site as well as the Tom Cole Historical Site, as we have projects that span both communities and both historical sites. In terms of finance, I have signed up for you guys to approve 2 of our annual engagement letters for 2 of our ongoing contracts, the accountant services and the audit plan services. I also am requesting for the board that you allow us to do J.D. Edwards training for our financial group, as there has been a lot of retirements and turnover. We have a lot of new people that will benefit from the operating system that we use. In terms of traffic, we're very excited. May 2022 had 5.3 million vehicles crossings as compared to 5.2 million in 2021, slightly lower than our high of 5.7 in 2019, but things are improving at a 2.9% from last year, so we're very excited. In terms of revenue, our revenue was 6.3 million as compared to 5.5 last year at during the same month. This increase, 14% increase, is attributable to both the 4% increase in traffic and the impact of the toll schedule revision that we are in our third revision. Last year will be the last 4th and final revision. To our tolling operations for the month of April, we received 6.3 million distributed through different categories. Easy Pass is 87% of our revenue, toll by email about 11%, and our overweight fees approximately 1%. We continue obviously to monitor the budget against our projections. So thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely.
The interviews with the local politicians, I
Yes.
realize there's a certain amount of confidentiality.
Yes.
Will there be any feedback for us or?
Yes. When every time we go to the meeting, it will be Chris Stever and I and Jeff. In some instances, we will provide a report and provide to the board, so you understand what is, happening, and their feedback to our authority when we meet with them.
And that is, the agenda is wide open.
Yes.
It's all the range of issues.
Yes. Is to stress collaboration because our communities are pretty much depending on each other. We get approached by some communities, like the Newburgh Beacon community, that now both Beacon and Newburgh are interested in the bike path that will go through our bridge. So things of that nature, we get approached a lot. Olana and Thomas Cole, we built sidewalks, collaborated in the projects to build the sidewalks that connect them through Rip and Winkle. So we continuously get, we are the bridges, we unite communities. So we get the community a lot of input, a lot of interest in our agency. And this is why I think it's important that we know the pulse of the community. What is it? What are the upcoming projects that they're interested? Do those projects have anything to do with us? And how can we facilitate those projects? How can we be part of them? But in order to do that, of course, you guys set the agenda for us. So it's more meeting, gathering information, and then presenting to you for your guidance to us.
And if one more point, if I could, just, and I realize that, you know, we are part of a larger whole here, but we continue to report outstanding revenue, you know, told by mail.
Yeah.
Regardless, you know, we refer to, we're getting, someday we will get to steady state.
Yeah.
But, and is the aging process of that? Because right now we are reporting $1 that was, you know, recognized on July 1st, 2021 on the Newburgh Beacon Bridge, the same as one that was recorded yesterday. When we both know.
No.
No, that is not true.
No.
Okay, talk to me about how it.
Okay, when we discussed it previously, financially, what we're doing is we're saying that any receivable in the first 6 months, we take a 20% reserve. Okay, after 6 months, from 6 to 12, we take 40%. So that any dollar that we're reporting and carrying in our books from when we went live in the 6 to 12 range, we're only carrying it at 60 cents right now.
I'm sorry. So when you say carrying, that's reported. So in other words, those numbers we're already seeing are already discounted.
They're discounted, but I mean, if this gets, it's kind of being kind of nitpicky. Okay.
Right.
Do we continue to carry the receivable? Yes. Legally, we never go and dismiss the receivable as, you know, that we don't have the ability to do so under our regs. At the same time, for financial reporting, we go and we recognize what we expect to be a collectible portion. Okay, we're required to go and reflect financially a realistic assessment of what we believe to be collectible. And we do various calculations and work with our auditors to obtain agreement. The balance that we're going to carry is likely collectible.
And I'm sorry, Brian, that I missed it. So that the numbers you are currently reporting
Are
are.
discounted for the what's called an allowance for doubtful accounts.
Thank you. Okay. I thought that was still coming as because we keep alluding to getting to steady state.
So steady state is a little bit different. So the receivable itself, if you look at it, a common industry measure is called DSO, or Day Sales Outstanding. When you start looking at a receivable and you start comparing it to recent tolls, fluctuations in revenue stream will go and have a significant impact. So what we've done is we've actually had some of the bridges on, like Newburgh obviously has been on for 10 months, whereas Mid-Hudson's only been on for 3. So there should be an expectation that the receivable is going to rise at Mid-Hudson. Okay. What we're kind of expecting is kind of a steady state someplace in the 6 to 9 month range after the last bridge goes live. So as we hit fourth quarter, we would expect to be at a receivable level that should carry forward pretty well. But also, I mean, you have to remember, we are looking at various processes to try to improve that as well. But in terms to bring it back to solely focus on how we report any receivable, if it happened yesterday, we're running a 20% reserve against it. Okay. If it ages out to 6 months, it's 40. With 6 month increments, we bring it up to 100 at 24 months. Okay, that's for the financial reporting. We never dismiss the receivable.
Right.
It's always good to know
you're
exactly
always-
what's in those numbers.
The patron is always liable for the toll.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sorry for.
Even if we have to seek them out.
Well,
Knock on their door.
Good work.
there is, and again, there is that thing that says sooner or later they're going to have to re-register their vehicle, and it's going to be outstanding then, but it has to be a New York plate.
There are lots of rules around that, and there's various legislation that's been considered that we would have to adhere to. But all of those elements, you know, really we explore those further as we get deeper into tolls by mail. Okay, because, you know, as of right now, really, you know, we don't have that many occurrences as compared to some of the other entities that have been live for a longer period of time.
And you're doing better than expected because you did not think that the fines would result. Right. So we're actually ahead of.
We are ahead of where we projected to be as it relates to the projections that we provided with the debt issuance and the official statement. But everyone should go and remember that when we went out to market with that last year, we were still running down in traffic year over year in the 13 to 17% range. Okay, as of right now, this morning, we were running down to 2019 about 5%. Okay, so across the board, you're going to see an improvement. It's just, you know, when we went out last year, there really is less of an incentive for us to go and be overly aggressive with our projections. Okay, it's preferential given the nature of how we go out the door with debt to make sure that what we tell the bond market we make. And with macroeconomic uncertainty, specifically as it related to a lot of fluctuation with COVID, we were reluctant to go out with an aggressive one.
Great, good job. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I do want to comment on, you know, one of the points that you made, Michael, about other states and other entities. And that's why it's important for the Bridge Authority to participate along with the Thruway Authority in those national organizations, because the issue of different states and how they address violation, it's important to have that macro dialogue. So very important for the Bridge Authority to continue to participate in those organizations and share best practices. So, all right, thank you. We will now move on to our business items. We have no administration items. We'll go to engineering and maintenance. Jeff?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have been asked to attend the upcoming National Cooperative Highway Research Program workshop in Washington, D.C. on June 29th. It's part of a select group of suspension bridge owners and technical managers regarding AASHTO's guidelines for risk-based inspection and strength evaluation of suspension bridge main cable systems. I'm not requesting any compensation. The NCHRP is providing reimbursement for travel and hotel room expenses. So I'm just going to be requesting time to go down to do the conference. So
great.
Congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you.
Do I have any questions from the board members? Do I have a motion to approve Jeff's travel request?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Alex. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I am also in the affirmative. The request is adopted.
Thank you.
Jobs in progress monthly report.
First up, the Newburgh Beacon redecking project continues to be on schedule for opening the structures at the end of September. So we're very excited about that. That's coming up. And the as you had to drive through the construction here to get to the meeting, we're looking forward to paving and getting this AET project done at Mid Hudson here, probably close to the end of next week. And then they are already working at Rip Van Winkle and the Kingston Rhinecliff Bridge, rehabbing those facilities. That project will be done by the end of September also. The other project we have going on is the pier repair project. Currently, the contractor is at Rip Van Winkle finishing up and expects to be down to the Kingston Rhinecliff Bridge probably next week or so.
Great.
So
Great. Thank you.
we're moving right along.
Yep. Questions, comments from the board
Comment
members?
that because we don't have a background, I appreciate time.
You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the jobs in progress report? So, thanks, Maria. Do I have a second? Thanks, Michael. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative. The report is approved and adopted. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Next up is our financial business items. Brian?
Chairman Donald. First up is the monthly investment report. There are 11 investments, all of a routine nature. They're reflected in the monthly investment inventory report. Currently, the maintenance reserve fund and the construction fund carry a balance of $8 million available for maintenance, repairs, rehabilitation, or construction. In April, we saw interest income and yield that's starting to rise. We keep seeing prevailing interest rates rise. Hopefully, we'll get a little money out of the money borrowed before we spend it all on the back. I don't have anything else unless you have questions.
Questions from the board members? Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the monthly investment report?
So moved.
Thank you, Alex. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Michael. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I'm in the affirmative. The report is approved and adopted. Next is the 2022 Maintenance Reserve Fund Balance Determination.
You, in accordance with section 5.03 of the bond resolution, attached to the board item is a certificate from an authorized officer of the authority, specifically the consulting engineer, indicating the required balance of the maintenance reserve fund. For this year, it's $134,740,000. This particular balance is derived from the September 21 board approved capital program, and represents the years 2022 through 2024. The board provides this resolution approving the balance annually. This balance is not a required balance. This is the ceiling by which, if funds in the individual underlying funds reach this level, we will begin moving money into the general fund. Historically, the authority has never done so.
Questions, comments from the board? All right, do I have a motion to approve and adopt the fund balance determination?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Lanny. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The resolution is approved and adopted. Next, we go to our engagement letter for the independent accountant services. Brian?
As discussed in the audit committee, the engagement letter for the independent accountant services is to be considered. This is come out of the audit committee, and they have approved it have recommended to the board for approval.
Okay. Questions, comments? Do I have a motion? Alex?
Make a motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Do I have a second? Thank you, Michael. I'll call the roll. Lanny, Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The resolution is approved and adopted. Next is our engagement letter for internal control systems auditor. Brian?
Okay, again, same as the prior item, it's the engagement letter for the internal control systems auditor. Really, the audit plan is approved by the audit committee, but we minimize paper and keep it one item. The proposals for 20,000. Unless there are any questions, the audit committee has recommended to the board.
Okay, questions? All right, do I have a motion? Alex, is the chair?
I'll make a motion. Thank you.
Okay,
Second.
okay, thank you, Michael. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative. The resolution is approved and adopted. Next up is a travel request for our executive director to attend the International Congress of Engineering and Architecture as the keynote speaker.
Did we pass over quarterly operations report? Or maybe we did.
Did we have the quarterly operations report? Oh, no, that's
Up next.
That's up
Oh, sorry, they
after
switched
the
it, they
travel.
switched it.
Yep,
Sorry,
yep,
I
that's
have
up
I
after
have
the
an
travel.
obsolete version, I apologize.
That's okay.
Dr. Alcantara has been invited to be a keynote speaker for the second International Conference of Engineering and Architecture in the Dominican Republic. This event to be held from June 23rd through June 26th of this year in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. The Dominican College of Engineers and Architecture surveys is the U.S. equivalent of the National Society of Professional Engineers. In the U.S. and the National Architectural Registration Board, the entity has offered to go and pay for travel expenses. The authority is seeking approval with JCOP under New York Code Rules and Regs, Section 931 for official activity expense payments. Unless there are other questions.
Board
Question?
members can.
I couldn't question.
Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the resolution? So moved. Thank you, Maria. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Lanny. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I also vote in the affirmative. The resolution is approved and adopted. Next up is the quarterly operations report.
Thanks,
Ryan?
sorry
Yep,
about
no,
that.
that's okay.
Okay, so as discussed in the finance committee meeting, the quarterly operations report is solely for information purposes. If any of the members, either in or out of the finance committee, have any additional questions, there's no action required on this.
All right, any questions, comments from the board? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Brian, for your reports. We have no human resources item. We have one item for IT, Francine.
Been that kind of day.
It would be
Morning.
Yeah.
a good time to propose a new camera.
The projector is not working yet. Oh, come on. Yeah. So, yeah, me too. So the authority has been using JD Edwards Enterprise One for its financial system for over 20 years. In the past, we have sent employees for training, and as Minoska had said, we did have some turnover with employees in our administration department. So it is time that we get some more training to help with productivity and cross-training of individuals. We did do an RFP, and it was advertised in the New York State Contract Reporter. We did receive 8 requests for the proposal. The lowest bid was non-responsive. The next lowest bid was complete and acceptable submission was received by Cyret Technologies for a total cost of $40,900.
Questions, comments from the board?
Very important
Yes.
with
yes,
the amount
very
of turnover that this has.
Yep. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you, Alex. I'll call the roll. Maria Bruni.
Aye.
Alex Berardi.
Aye.
Lanny Gilbert.
Aye.
Michael O'Brien.
Aye.
And I'm in the affirmative. The resolution is approved and adopted. Thank you. There are no bridge operations items, and there are no media and public information items. Correct, Chris? Okay, great. We are now going to have a presentation for the board.
Julianne is connected to Zoom, so she is going to stream it to the public.
Great.
The presentation.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
So you will just let Julianne know as you're going to the next.
Oh,
slide.
okay.
And show-
Okay.
Virtual
Everyone
audience.
should have that in their packet.
Yep.
So we should be able to follow along.
Okay, we will turn it over to Danielle Moss, the Director of the Command Center. Danielle, take it away.
All right. So this is just a little presentation on the history and development of the security related roles here at the Bridge Authority. Our mission statement to maintain and operate safe vehicle crossings of the Hudson River, entrusted to its jurisdiction for the economic and social benefit of the people of the state of New York, really played a major part in how we developed these roles. Julie, so next slide.
Oh, great. Okay,
Should I be on them to maintain slide, Danielle?
Next one, please.
next one.
Next one, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So the development of the role, how did these jobs come to be? How did we implement these? So with the transition to AAT, we really developed and noticed the need for continued operations once the full collectors were gone. So prior to being in a cashless environment, we had staff that not only collected tolls, but we were able to catch incidents and accidents, kind of be the ears and the eyes on the ground in conjunction with the command center. So they were able to interact with the public as they were going through the toll plazas, and we were really able to get some feedback if there was an incident on the bridge or if there was something, traffic started to build up in the toll plaza. So while we definitely had all of this coverage in the command center, we really think that the extension of the command center to have some on the ground effort is really important. So how would we continue this in a cashless environment? How would these functions remain in operation? Next slide, Joy.
Next slide.
Thank you. So the evolution of the role. So again, we started out with, we want to maintain these functions that we deemed essential. We had toll collectors, but we felt that there was a lot of enhancements we could make to better complement the command center situational awareness by having boots on the ground in all facilities who were dedicated to security rather than toll collection. Dedicated incident response. So now, rather than the primary focus be handling cash and making sure that we're receiving appropriate funds. We now have people who are dedicated to responding to incidents and accidents of all types, which we'll get into in a little bit. Operational awareness. So again, complement to the command center, we have boots on the ground. We'll get into the details of how they maintain their situational awareness. Cognizant of contractors, vendors, pedestrians, the public, any visitor to the authority. So we're keeping a really tight rein on who's on our property. We want to know at all times. We obviously have a lot of unauthorized areas we want to keep people out of. We obviously have a lot of public areas people are welcome to come to, but we want to have a sense of who is on our property at all times. Next slide, Julie. Oh, no problem. Thank you. So in defining the role, part of what we did when we started looking at this role was what are the functions that we currently have in place we want to keep and what do we want to enhance. Then we had to look at how are we going to implement these roles. So we worked very closely with civil service to see what type of titles they already had on their roster that we could seamlessly implement. And we came up with the FTE security technician bridge role. So what are their main functions? Ensuring the security of infrastructure, property, employees, assets, public. Again, to work with our mission, we really want to just ensure that we have a high security presence. They use, we put into place a lot of documents. We created over 50 policies and procedures. We created a lot of corresponding documents. So it's just work instructions, course schedules, scripts that people could use when approaching emotionally disturbed people, EDPs, trespassers, what's the best way to speak to them. We also consulted with the MTA and local law enforcement and state law enforcement and the throughway. So when we were putting all these things together, we did a lot of extensive research. We put a lot of thought and strategy behind what we wanted to do. And we also learned that through our consultation, our strategies and policies were in line with what the larger agencies were doing. We're also a moment to pat ourselves on the back, but we operate with a lot less staff than these larger authorities and agencies, and we maintain the same functions with them. So I think that's something really important to point out. Next slide. So not only are they doing the things that we talked about, the incident response, the patrols, which we'll still get into a little bit further detail on, but we have them doing a lot more. There's administrative work, there's a lot of behind the scenes work, but we also have them testing all of our essential equipment. So our foghorns, our nav lights, our call buttons, our panic buttons. So we want to make sure that the help phones on the bridge work at all times. So people in need, we constantly test those. We have to make sure our motion lights constantly work, because if we have someone in an unauthorized area and this is our alert to it, we want to know that the system's functioning. So, this is just a little sample that no one can probably see from your seat, but it's a little sample of some of the job responsibilities that we have them doing. Everything is on a schedule. We can count down to, we have hourly tasks for them, so we're really able to manage their day. And, we went from having people who would just drive across the bridge in a bridge truck to now they're driving across the bridge in a bridge truck, but they're checking all of our areas. So it's not just buildings anymore. It's doors to anchorages and all of our unauthorized areas. We're making sure everything's locked, everything's secure. We're making sure there's no people on property that shouldn't be there. We've extended our tours into walking tours. So they patrol the premises around the office buildings. They're crossing the sidewalks hourly now, seeing if there's any nefarious activity out there, looking for items that shouldn't be there, looking for people who may be distressed. Next slide, please. A little bit ahead of myself, but that's what they're doing. So they're doing all these property tours now, the driving, the walking. They're dedicated to incident response. So before, again, we would dispatch an FTC, a senior toll collector, when we identified an incident, but their main job was to collect tolls. So in some instances, our response was delayed. It just wasn't the primary function. Now they're dedicated to this. This is the #1 thing they're doing. They're going to all sorts of incidents. So accidents, emotionally disturbed people, EVPs, suicide, trespassers. We see an object on the bridge that shouldn't be there, a backpack. We send them out to, go confiscate. Well, they don't confiscate it, but they go investigate it. And again, routine testing of essential functionality of the equipment. So These are all things that, you know, ensure the security of the authority and really enhance what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Next slide, please. So this is, you know, some of the skill set from a senior toll collector was a little bit transferable to these positions because they were doing incident response, they were doing some system testing, but you know, it's a very different job to go from someone who's handling cash to someone who's a security guard for all intents and purposes. So we really spent a lot of time and resources to invest in our employees and ensure their safety and success in the role. So we spent a full day doing internal policy and procedure review. All 50 plus of those documents we reviewed in detail to make sure everybody really understood what the authority expected of them. They engaged NIMS training, which is National Incident Management System. So this is a unified approach for all agencies and first responders who arrive to a scene. So everybody has a unified approach to terminology, steps you take to handle the incident. They have several TIMS trainings, which is Traffic Incident Management System. There's about 7 or 8 of these courses we have them take. This is the same type of thing as NIMS, except it's more traffic related. So how do you manage a traffic incident versus more of a, you know, suicidal incident as a NIMS. We enlisted the city of Poughkeepsie to come in and give us a customized training on safety and security. They talked a lot about de-escalation. They talked about a lot of incidents that they respond to on our behalf, so that we can work very closely with them and then apply those types of relationships and partnerships that we have implemented here at the other facilities. We have them go to mental health first aid and safe talk. Safe talk is a little bit more focused on suicide, but mental health encompasses all different types of mental health issues. So not only are people equipped to deal with someone they may encounter out on the bridge, but this is really applicable to your life. So you can, you know, identify anybody outside of here who may be experiencing an issue and better equip you to handle someone you may encounter while you are out on the bridge. Hand training, same thing. This is, I think we actually just completed our first session yesterday. This is if someone's having an overdose on the bridge, we're equipped to handle that while we wait for first responders. And then security guard training, this is one of my favorites. So a security guard registration is part of the civil service requirement for this position. So there are external classes that you are offered through external sources where we can send our people to go get their registration and training through those sources. But we decided to create our own proprietary school where Rachel and our security coordinator will be instructors. We'll have a school in-house. We can make this content a lot more customized to our needs, and then we can have this going on a rolling basis on our schedules, around our flexibility. It'll keep costs way down, and it'll be a lot more beneficial to what we're really looking for. Next slide, please. And so how are all these things that we've done really impacting the authority? Some incident responses just to highlight. So with Hudson, a couple weeks ago, we had with the shadowing of David, we had a man named David who was a social activist who came onto our property 2 times. And he was basically walking around the facility, filming our employees, filming in cars, filming the building. You know, and he was well within his rights to do so. He didn't go into any areas that were unauthorized, but just having that physical security presence who was able to shadow him and ensure he stayed where he was supposed to stay. And, you know, everybody was very courteous. Everybody was, the situation was definitely handled in a manner that made everybody feel comfortable and also kept us out of bad publicity with, you know, poor response. At Newburgh Beacon, we tend to have a lot of pedestrians that will come up from the 9W on-ramp on the west end and walk on the span to get to the sidewalk. Obviously that's unsafe. We've had some issues in the past where people have been struck, so we really are trying to get people to use the sidewalk as directed. So having the STVs there, once we identify that a pedestrian may be wandering off into an area that shouldn't be under the span, we immediately dispatch an STV. They'll go and either shadow the person until they're safe to get onto the sidewalk, or help them get on to a different path prior to getting onto the deck. With Graham Winkle, we've had an instance where we have had an STV on patrol on the sidewalk and they found a bag of knives. Obviously, that's not something that we want to be out in the public. So they were able to clear the area that the knives were found in until police were able to respond, which is really good. We see a lot of pedestrians walking on sidewalks and they find things and they pick things up, and we really don't want them to do that with knives. And then finally at Bear Mountain, hopefully see this picture, we have a very extensive policy around road hazards and how quickly we need to respond, but sometimes it's hard for the command center to identify these types of road hazards with a pothole that may be showing rebar on camera because the views just aren't as good as we need them to be. So to have an SCD out there who can go confirm it, and then we can take action immediately, get the crew in to come fix the road hazard and ensure that we're keeping everything safe and seamless. And then one big highlight to note is that in incidents where SCDs and police will both dispatch to an incident, because in some instances we don't even dispatch the police, but this would be for something where all the incidents both groups were. 82% of the incidents SCDs responded prior to law enforcement. And that's a pretty big number. We obviously want to have somebody respond as soon as something's identified. So having that quick response is really vital to ensuring a favorable outcome. Next slide, please, Julie. And then another number to highlight, on average response time is 7 minutes for STD versus 13 minutes for police. So that 6 minutes makes a huge difference. And when we say 7 minutes for our internal response, this can be considered delayed in that, we will dispatch SCB and they have to go all the way across the bridge in traffic. They can't get through any more than anybody else can, and they're still able to get there in a timely manner. And again, these are on average, but these two incidents show that at Mid-Hudson, we had an accident in car versus car. We had SCD response in 3 minutes and police took 26 minutes. That's obviously a big time to wait for someone when there's potential injuries, there's traffic building up. And the same with Bear Mountain, car versus barrier. Took 9 minutes for STD response, but 40 for police response. And obviously, police have a lot more incidents inside their jurisdiction to deal with than we do. So they have priority levels. They're going to a gun call over a disabled vehicle. But that's why it's so important that we have this type of staff and incident response that we can control and manage and produce favorable outcomes for. And then lastly, Julie, last slide, please. And so we really want to recognize the good work of the new departments, and also great at recognizing good work. So she implemented these community appreciation awards. We were receiving a lot of good feedback from the community, a lot of good feedback internally. So at the last, maybe the second or third board meeting ago, we presented our staff in front of everybody with these awards. So just really wanted to highlight their good work. And that is it, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Any questions, comments from the board?
First of all, I think this was excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I think would help us as we go through this is your involvement in the whole selection as we look at alternatives for suicide deterrence. Is an understanding from your team, okay, here's how long we think it would take a person to scale this thing or to circumvent whatever we come up with, versus how fast, in light of all the other things these people are doing, how fast they could get there, right? I mean, that's going to be one of the trade-offs you have to look at.
It certainly, and incident response times to all types of incidents of any nature is something we're starting to review and analyze. We track it, but we really want to understand if there's, 13 minutes versus 3 minutes, what's the situation? Is it traffic buildup? What is the cause? How can we get better? How can we learn from a longer response?
Or how can we put a different deterrent up in those places where you can't get to in an amount of time? So, thank you.
Thank you.
You had mentioned that you're having the in-house program in terms of training, and I think that's wonderful. You also mentioned, the first aid, mental health first aid. I took the mental health first aid course a couple of years ago. And when I took the course, they have an additional course for trainers. So you might want to consider take having one of your people become a trainer for the mental health.
Oh, great.
course.
Thank you.
And how are these employees viewing their new responsibilities?
You know, I think that it's been very well received. The job has changed a lot since we launched it to where we are today. So obviously there's growing pains like there is in any new role. But people are really embracing it and they feel like they're doing their part to really protect something. You know, their jobs are so important. We have a lot of infrastructure that we can't replace. We have people we can't replace. The general public, we have to keep them safe. So they really feel like they're contributing to the mission of the security. They feel like they're contributing to, you know, their daily operations are really what keeps us seamless.
Yep,
So,
great, that is great.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Can I say two things?
Of
Yes.
course, of course.
Ever since I came to the agency, when I came, things were not well structured. So I worked with Danielle as well as Rachel, and this was 24-hour Monday, Sunday, Saturday till we completed all this effort that you see. So I wanted to give them a big kudos because they have young kids and taking Saturdays and Sundays to do this work was beyond, you know, what is expected. So thank you so much. And I wanted you guys to recognize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we have no items for executive session. We have no, any old business, any new business from the members? All right, with that, our next meeting is scheduled for July 21st, 2022. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's meeting?
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, everybody, have a good July 4th, and we will see. Jeff, have fun at your.
So.
Oh, and June 1st is Monday, correct? Correct.
Kind of slow down.
So yes, just another
90-day
Yeah.
So what is, I've got to read this, the last in my notes was the issue.
Restraint. And so.
But everybody's else.
Everything.
So.
We're like federal court.
You know,
I understand. I don't.